Thank you so much, all of you, for coming. We really, really appreciate it for RSVPing and finding our Instagram or being on our GroupMe or whatever. So thank you so much for coming. We are GHEC, the Greater Twin Cities High School Environmental Coalition, and this summit will be from 1 to 4 p.m., but we might end early. We'll see. But yeah, thank you so much for coming, and I'm going to pass it off to Kira.
So the goal of this day is to provide a space for both education and communication between environmentally conscious high school students, which should be all of you. So yeah, we started, I guess we're going to have more information on the coalition, so we can elaborate.
Yeah, so the summit agenda, we're going to go over introductions, and then we'll have a total of 4 speakers. We'll have a break, and then we will have some discussions, a letter writing seminar, a Kahoot, and different activities. So, yeah.
Now we're going to go into introductions. I'm going to hand it off to Laura.
Thank you. So my name is Laura Sonnerborg. I'm a senior at Mount Westonka High School, which is a small school. It's about 30 minutes west of Minneapolis. And my favorite artist, something about me, we're all going to say something about ourselves, is Taylor Swift, and I'm super excited for the new album, Midnights.
I'm Nina. I use she, her. I'm a senior at GHEC, which is in Golden Valley, and I'm really good at close-up magic.
My name is Kira. I'm also a senior at GHEC, and I couldn't come up with a fun fact in time, so we had that I am the best person ever, probably, and I apologize that I don't have more information on myself right now.
Yeah, I'm Amira. I also go to GHEC, which is in Golden Valley, and yeah, I've kind of just developed this obsession with moths recently. They're just very cool. You can ask me more about that if you want to.
Nice, so that's an introduction of us, and now we want to say a couple thank yous. Am I speaking to the mic close enough? Okay, so thank you to all of our speakers, Holly, our youth environmental activists, Sean, Tom, and Amal. Thank you all so much. Thank you to Leah Thomas, the intersectional environmentalist. You'll see her book in the back, and a lot of what we've done for GHEC has been based on her work. Thank you to Ms. Richards, who's my advisor, Ms. Kent, who's an advisor at GHEC, and all the other GHEC staff that has helped with all of the GHEC things we've done. Thank you to the Southdale Library for hosting us, and to all of you for attending.
Okay, so what is GHEC? It is the Greater Twin Cities High School Environmental Coalition. It does abbreviate strangely. It was too long, so we tried to shorten it. But our mission is to form connection and collaboration between high school environmental leaders to strengthen and diversify sustainability and climate justice. It's on the screen. I butchered it a little bit. But we are 26-ish schools in the Greater Twin Cities area. And basically, we just wanted to have a space for different environmental clubs to connect with each other and share ideas, because when we were working on our respective environmental clubs, we found that there were a lot of similar challenges that we faced. So we thought that having a place that we could talk about that and work through things together would be really helpful.
Yeah, and so far we've had a couple meetings with representatives from different schools' environmental clubs and different youth-led environmental organizations, and we also have a GroupMe for sharing ideas that's linked on our Instagram if any of you are not on that already. And also, to add on to that, this summer we've been doing stuff with the intersectional environmentalist. Oh yeah, I guess it's there now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we've been doing a book club with the intersectional environmentalist. So Leah Thomas actually came to present to us last year, and we got so much valuable insight about how the environmental movement can encompass all of these other social movements that are going on right now. And so we've been having an action-based book club to discuss how we can implement the outlines that she gives in her books into our respective organizations.
We can all share. Yeah, we got it.
Okay, so just to like get introductions for all of y'all, we want to go around and say our names, our school, and our favorite plant or whatever plant describes you best. Start there.
Stop there.
No, I'm a junior at Breck. I said my favorite plant would be the aspen tree.
My name's also Noah. I also go to Breck, but I'm a senior. And my favorite plant is, forget me, I'm
Okay, hi, I'm Kendall. I'm a senior. I also go to Breck. And my favorite plant is actually an aspen, so I have to fight over that one.
Hi, my name is Abby. I'm a sophomore. I also go to Breck, and my favorite plant is probably like a willow tree.
Hi, I'm Holly. I'm a senior at Roseville Area High School, and my favorite plant would probably be a ginkgo tree.
Hi, my name is Ivy. I also go to Roseville. I'm also a senior, and my favorite plant would be the willow.
My name is Amelia. I also go to Roseville. I'm a senior, and my favorite plant would be any kind of fern.
I'm Abigail. I'm a freshman at Breck, and my favorite plant is probably a maple tree.
I'm Glennon. I'm a senior at Breck, and I think I would go with like pothos or something.
My name's Amelia. I'm a senior at Eden Prairie, and my favorite plant's a pine tree.
I'm Brooke. I'm a junior at Tonka, and I like geopatches.
My name is Rabia. I'm a senior at Eastview High School, and my favorite plant would be like a lily of the valley flower.
I'm Sari. I'm a senior at School of Environmental Studies, and I really like mosses, like roots of moss.
Hi, I'm Sophia. I'm a freshman. I go to Mount Tonka, and my favorite plant is any kind of succulent.
My name is Betty May. I'm from Mount Tonka. I am a freshman, and my favorite plant would probably be a cactus.
My name is Allie. I'm a senior at Hopkins, and my favorite plant would be a Venus flytrap.
I'm Kenna. I'm also a senior at Hopkins, and my favorite plant is probably an African violet.
My name is Ava. I'm also a senior at Hopkins, and my favorite plant is probably a willow tree.
My name's Laura. As I said before, I'm a senior. Oh, we forgot someone. Sorry, I wanted to share my favorite tree.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I'm a senior at Kennedy High School. My favorite plant is probably Oxbow.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a senior at Jefferson, and my favorite plant is probably Sweet Cicely.
Hi, I'm Amal. I'm a senior at Jefferson High School, and my favorite plant would probably be a willow tree or any wildflower.
Hi, I'm Tom. I go by he, him pronouns. I'm a senior from Jefferson, and my favorite plant is definitely like mushrooms.
Hello, my name is Owen Loken. I go to Thomas Jefferson High School. I'm in 12th grade, and my favorite plant would probably be some type of cactus.
I'm Laura. I'm a senior at Mount Tonka High School, and my favorite plant is like a pine tree or an evergreen tree.
Sure. I'm Kira again. Haven't given my favorite plant much thought, but ivy is cool of all types.
That's a good one. I'm Amira. I also haven't given my favorite plant much thought, but maybe I would say like some sort of creeper.
I'm Nina. My favorite plant, either lily pads because they have a really cool like pollination process, or compass plants.
Cool.
Oh sure. Okay, so what is the first time? Oh yeah. So what we're gonna be doing now is we have some questions that we're gonna be going through, and we're gonna hand out some post-it notes so you can answer the questions, and we can make a kind of like mosaic of everyone's answers. Okay, so I guess just to like think about the questions before we have the supplies handed out. What is the first time you remember hearing about climate change?
So unfortunately, this activity will probably involve you standing up because we want to put them on the wall, and then everyone can have their answer, and you can look and kind of get an idea of what other people's thoughts are in the room. So I think we're handing out post-it notes now, and then.
Yeah, and then we'll put the first question over here.
Take 4.
Yeah.
Also, number your post-its with like the questions.
You guys all have 4? Oh wait, and then does everyone have a pen or pencil? Yeah. There's some, I don't think I can one. So maybe we use it. Yes.
Wait, was that our music Okay. So we'll give 30 more seconds for the first question. Okay, 40 seconds.
Yeah, 40 minutes. Should we have people come up to yourselves? I think we should do it after all of them. We'll put them through each other. Should we do question 1 there? Or no, 1. We can do 1 and then 2 behind school, and 3 there, and then 4. And then we'll come and collect your post-its.
Okay, so after we answer all of the questions, then open up the post-it notes.
All right, we've got question 2 up, so you can start writing your answer.
We've got question 2 up, so you can start writing your answer to the second one.
I've got one.
Okay, so question 3 is here, and you can write a little bit about like how you deal with climate anxiety and things like that too.
What is the last one?
Here's the fourth question.
So when you're done writing, Laura is showing you where you can put them up. I think we're going 1, 2, 3, wherever the next one is, and then 4, just clockwise around the room. So you'll get on. Okay, as you're sitting down, is there anyone that wants to share their answer for question 1? I can also read some. So someone said around kindergarten, because they went to an environment school, elementary school, 4th grade, elementary school, middle school. So like it's really inspiring that schools are trying to put this in their curriculums for younger students. Okay, question 2. That is question 2. Global warming affecting wildlife, low-income POC being affected, economic effects on the marginalized communities, lack of urgency, frequent severe natural disasters. So, you know, it's very overwhelming to be focused on the climate as a youth. I think you all probably are aware of that. But, you know, climate anxiety is very much a real thing. But focusing on and leading with hope is something that we're trying to learn how to do as a coalition. So things that bring people hope, Inflation Reduction Act, youth advocates,
little actions that we can all do, groups like the coalition, the idea that climate change still can be reversed, and then the last one. So why are you so important? We're the next people that are going to be making decisions and having a say in the future. Essentially, a lot of you said we are the future. We are the leaders of today and tomorrow, and we have unique power in our age in the eyes of legislators. So yeah, thank you all for doing that. Oh wait, you need the mic.
All right, so next we're going to introduce our first speaker, Holly. She's a senior at Roseville Area High School, and she's a leader of their Environmental and Progressive Club. She's going to talk about environmental organizing, leading a climate walkout that had over 600 student participants, and working on a campaign for electric school buses. So here's this. Thank you.
Hi, so I'm Holly. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm just here to talk about my environmental activism, what I've done, kind of my journey in the youth climate movement. So a little bit about me, like I mentioned before, I'm a senior at Roseville Area High School. I'm the leader of the ROS Progressives Club at my school, and also one of the founders of ROS Students for Climate Action, which is a new environmental club at my school that we're starting this year, which is really exciting. So I wanted to start with my story and my background, kind of how I became involved in environmentalism. So when I was in 9th grade, I took an environmental science class, and going into this class, I was kind of like, oh, I'll just take it for a challenge, kind of trying to get through it, then I'll move on to my life, you know, not super interested. But I can say that this class honestly changed my life. I just, you know, I think it was really eye-opening, and I really realized for the first time, one, how beautiful our natural world is and how amazing it is, but also that it's being destroyed as we speak, and I just knew that I couldn't just sit here and not do anything. I needed to take action on it, and that's what I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing. So I was really inspired by Greta Thunberg all along. And I really felt like a protest was the first way to start advocating for climate action, just through raising awareness, building momentum, and then taking specific action from there. For those of you who don't know, the kind of idea behind Greta Thunberg and the Fridays for Future movement is that not being in school shows that climate action is more important to your future than education. And it says to those in charge that, like, hey, if you care about my future, you're not only going to prioritize my education, but you're also going to take action for the climate crisis. So after that, the summer after 10th grade, I believe, I joined the Environmental Stewardship Institute, which is a youth program with Friends of the Mississippi River, which is a local nonprofit organization in the Twin Cities. And I had a really great experience with this. Their goal is to teach youth career skills and kind of show them what a career in the environmental field might look like, while also working on networking and restoration. And I had a really great experience, but one of the things about this was there wasn't really a huge focus on climate action or actually taking action politically to combat the climate crisis, and that was something that was really important to me. So I was like, okay, I need to do a little bit more. So at the start of my junior year, I believe, I joined the Progressives Club at my high school and was soon invited into a leadership role, just because people knew that I was interested in environment and had some experience with that. And yeah, that was really great. So then during, I believe it was last January, February, we heard that there was going to be an International School Climate Strike Day on March 25th of 2022, where thousands and thousands of youth from all around the world would be striking. And we were like, this is an awesome opportunity. We need to take advantage of this to lead our first strike. So that's what we did. So a little bit about our walkout. We ended up doing a walkout instead of a strike. I was kind of outvoted on this one. I wanted to do a strike originally, but just because that's kind of like the precedent within this movement, we decided to do a walkout just because it was a little bit more feasible. Students in Minnesota, there's generally not really a precedent here for climate strikes, whereas there is a precedent for walkouts such as gun violence walkouts, Black Lives Matter walkouts. So we decided to be a little more realistic and a little more easy for people to participate in a walkout instead of a strike. So our walkout was from around 12 to 1 p.m. and we walked from our high school to Roseville City Hall. There's a picture up there, which is about a 15-minute walk. I guess it was like a little bit longer with a big group of people. And while we were there, we had some student speeches on the climate crisis and also on our various demands. And we did have what we estimate between like 500 to 600 student participants, as well as city council members, school board members, members of local climate action groups that we invited to attend with us, and some parents, elementary schoolers, random community members stopping by. We had a lot of other people attend too, which was really cool. And one thing I'd like to note is that if you've ever considered leading a protest, it's really important to phrase it as not like we're angry and we're protesting against you. It's more like we're raising awareness and we're working with you, because even if your city council members aren't really doing what you want them to do for the climate crisis, you're not going to get them to do what you want to do by acting mad. You need to phrase it as we're working with you and want to do this together. So one other thing that's important when you're leading a walkout or some sort of protest is to have specific demands behind it, so that you have some sort of like specific real world action that's going to happen because of it. So our demands, it was very hard for us to agree on them. There was a lot of disagreement over what they should be, but in the end, it doesn't totally matter what they are, because you just want to show that you have specific goals, and no matter what your demands are, if you don't push for them, they're not going to happen. Or if something's not a demand and you do push for it, then it will happen. So that's just a little bit about that. So we had 2 city-focused demands, one of which was for our city to declare a climate emergency, which on its own doesn't really do a whole lot for the climate crisis, but it just provides leverage for future situations. So if like the city council members in the future weren't taking action on climate, you could say like, hey, you said this was an emergency, why aren't you doing something? Another one of our demands was organized trash collection, which I had no idea what this was beforehand, and it sounds really boring, but it's actually a really great way to reduce emissions. So if you don't know what it is, so basically it just means that within a city, so most cities how it works is you have like 8 garbage collectors going around collecting trash from everywhere, going down every alley every single week. Whereas in an organized system that you would divide the city into 8 different sections, and each collector only go within that section. So then the emissions are like 1/8 of what they used to be, and it's also just like less trucks, less wear and tear on roads, that sort of stuff. So that's just a brief summary of what that means. And then we did have 4 school-focused demands as well. So one of them was for our school to apply for a grant that would give us money to get solar panels, for our school to join the Minnesota Green Steps Schools program, which is a program that just provides like steps and framework that schools can take to become more sustainable. Organic waste disposal, so either composting our food waste or sending it to an animal farm instead of just throwing it away. And then the community gardens on school grounds. And one thing I'd like to note through the protest and just throughout all environmental activism in general is that it's really important to center climate justice. We can't solve these issues without the input of those who are most affected by them, such as BIPOC communities, communities in the global south, women, disabled communities, that sort of thing. And it's also really important to make your events accessible. So, for example, with our walkout, we drove students who weren't able to physically walk to City Hall there, which is just a great way to include them and to make sure that their voices were heard at the walkout. And then another thing I'd like to note is that leading a strike is good, but it's not the only way to advocate for climate action. When I started my activism, I you kind of see Greta Thunberg and the work that she's doing, and she's often kind of put on a pedestal by the media as like the climate activist, and what she's doing is the best way to combat climate change, which is true that she's done a lot of good work, but she's not the only activist. There are a lot of activists, particularly BIPOC ones, that often aren't really recognized for the work that they do, even though they're doing some really great work. So it's just good to remember that you can be a really great climate activist and not strike or do things differently than other people do. It's just good to remember that the way Greta Thunberg is kind of portrayed sometimes is a little bit whitewashed, and there are a lot of other really great activists from the global south that are important to recognize as well. So some of the outcomes from our walkout, and also the next steps that we're planning on taking. So I feel like after the walkout, it felt like things kind of exploded. We just had, there was a lot of connections that we made and publicity that we gained throughout the walkout. So a lot of cool stuff happened after it. One of the first things was that we were invited to meet with school board members and to speak at a school board meeting, which was really exciting. We were also interviewed by the Minnesota Green Stuff Schools program to put on their website. We wrote some articles for a Ecosystemic, which is a youth-based environmental magazine based in DC, and also connected with some Fridays for Future groups in DC, which was really cool because they have a much bigger climate movement within high schools and colleges than we do here. We also led a little mini campaign for unified trash hauling in our city. So we connected with some other community organizations and other people at our school and organized some speakers to go to a city council meeting to talk about why it's important that we switch to unified trash hauling. And I feel like that was just a really great networking opportunity as well. We got to know a lot of really cool community members and organizations through that. One of the biggest things we've done since the walkout is an electric school bus campaign with an environmental nonprofit called Minnesota 350. So we wanted our school district to apply for a grant that would give them the money to buy electric buses, which are obviously important for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. But they also improve student health as well, because students are actually exposed to a lot of air pollution by riding diesel-fueled school buses. And I would say with that campaign, it was a very good learning experience. What we did is we created a petition and also encouraged people to call or email our school board members to apply for this grant. And although they ended up deciding not to in the end due to the staffing shortages at the busing company, I would say we still learned a lot from this campaign. You know, it's kind of like a live and learn, you make mistakes, you learn from them. It was definitely, I feel like at the beginning I thought it would be a lot easier than it actually was. For example, with the petition, not as easy to collect signatures as you would think. And then also the school board, the original impression we got from them was that they were, you know, super nice, super willing to work with us, but when it comes to actually acting on things, they were not as willing. They were a little bit more hesitant and also kind of ghosted us, not super great at communication, so it was interesting to find out. But overall, I think the end summary of that was that it was still worth it because we still built momentum for electric buses, and I would say that they're much more likely to apply in future rounds because of the momentum we built. And it was also just a really great learning experience for us as well. So I feel like in future campaigns, we'll definitely use what we learned from that and hopefully run them a little bit better. So yeah, the next thing that we did was we were at the Minnesota State Fair in the Eco Experience building for 3 days this year. We had a presentation one day, had a table another day, and then we're also there with the Minnesota Green Step Schools program. And then kind of moving on to some of our next steps for this year. So like I talked about earlier, we're starting an environmental club at our school that we're calling Raw Students for Climate Action. And we don't really want to make any decisions about what we're going to do with that club until we have more of like our key people formed or key group formed. Our first meeting is going to be this Wednesday, and we just want to hear like what people are interested in and what they want to do, and don't really want to make decisions without their input first. But with that said, some ideas that we do have are maybe doing a few more climate strikes, potentially even founding an official Fridays for Future group if we want to do more regular or consistent strikes, and also creating a student input sustainability group with our school district where we envision meeting more regularly with our school board to discuss sustainability. I think that would really help us continue to achieve our walkout demands as well, just because I think the main barrier that we face with them is communication and just consistent communication with them. We're not really sure if they'd be willing to do this, but it's something that we definitely want to look into and try. And also for achieving our city council related walkout demands, we're planning on doing some canvassing and campaigning for more progressive candidates this November. Because right now the biggest barrier to achieving our demands is that our city council is at the moment more conservative, so they don't really want to change things, they don't really want to like adopt more sustainable policies. But once we have more progressive candidates on there, I think it'll be much easier to achieve our demands. So we're definitely going to work on that and campaign for them this fall. So I wanted to end by just talking about what can you do for the climate, because I'm sure just the fact that you're here says that you're really interested in climate justice and that you probably want to take some action on it. So the number one thing, in my opinion, is that governments and industries are the ones that cause the climate crisis, so they're the ones that are going to have to fix it. A popular idea is that oh, like if you care about the environment, you should recycle and not use plastic bags and all that stuff. And even though that's really important, the idea of recycling, even in the term carbon footprint, for example, were actually popularized by the industries that are creating plastic waste and are creating carbon emissions, because they want to put the blame on the consumer instead of themselves, even though they're the main ones that are causing this crisis. So they're the ones that are going to have to fix it. We'll have to push them through political action, and that generally has a much larger impact than individual action in terms of reducing emissions. And even education and awareness, like, it's really important to raise awareness about the climate crisis, but often the truth is that most people know that it's there, but they sometimes don't know how to act. So it's important to actually start taking action and encouraging politicians and industries to adopt more sustainable policies. I would also say, I would encourage you all to join some sort of climate action group, whether it be an environmental club at your school or an outside organization, and also get your friends involved too. Just bringing more people into the movement is honestly one of the most important things we can do for it. And just don't be afraid to get started. Like, for me, there was a period of about 2 years where I had found that passion for the environment, but wasn't really doing anything about it. Just because I was kind of afraid about what people would think of me, or like, I was just kind of scared. I wasn't really sure where to start. But I can say that, like, even when you're scared, you just have to, I guess I'm not totally sure how I overcame my fear, but it's important to remember that climate justice is more important than really anything else, what you're afraid of, what other people think. And if people are going to judge you for this, that's their own problem. You just have to kind of get that confidence and remember why you're doing this and why it's so important. So yeah, just don't be afraid to get started and make those connections, network, get people involved, all of that. So yeah, thank you so much for listening. Please contact me anytime. I love networking, love meeting other organizers. I have my emails. I have too many emails, but I have them and my Instagram up there. And yeah, any questions as of right now? You can always ask me questions later. I'll be here. So yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an amazing presentation. Thank you for speaking on your work with the strike. It was amazing to hear also what came with that and some of your advice for how to start organizing and get involved. So thank you a lot for that, Holly.
With that, but mine is about this project I did in Jordan. So last year I studied abroad in Jordan, and living in Jordan is a lot different than living in the US, of course, right? And what you realize is how privileged we are. Like, we never have to think about the water that's gonna come out of our tap, because in Jordan, water comes once a week, and if you run out, you run out. So you have to use bottled water, and nothing is coming out of your tap, which is a really scary thought. And as water scarcity continues in other areas of our world, we have to think about how it's gonna affect us too. And, okay. So I created a project called Floralia, and if you guys don't know what Floralia is, because a lot of people don't, it's like this really hippie holiday that comes from the ancient Romans. So the ancient Romans used to have this holiday, like, it was 2 days each year in which they would just celebrate nature. It was a really dope holiday, and I decided I wanted to do it in Jordan because in Amman, Jordan, it used to be one of the 10 major Roman cities. So I was like, this is a really cool, like, hippie thing that I could do. And I centered our, like, festival on art, because we tried to build a community garden, but we experienced a lot of pushback in our local, like, community, and how we would have water for it and how people would maintain it. So we decided to just create art. And so we created a week of educational programming based and centered around different varieties of art. It wasn't just physical art, it was about expressive art too, which is really cool. And our goal was creating a community of artists. It didn't matter if they had experience before or if they're super experienced. And just to create a space for climate conversations between Americans and Jordanians and of every nationality, really. So it was a 3-day festival. On the first day, we did a lot of brainstorming. We had this huge chalk table and everyone wrote in whatever language they spoke, climate commitments, and we all charted it out and started to see the connections. We visualized what we wanted to do, and through those visualizations, we brought that into our art. So I led a spray painting session, which was really cool. We found this building, which this is legal too, mostly legal, but we found this building and we bought a lot of spray paint. So we just like spray painted about nature and what we foresaw, like the future of our world and just about climate change. And it was really expressive. It was really therapeutic, weirdly, just spray painting. And it was a lot of fun. We got to meet a lot of other climate conscious people and a lot of other really cool people in Amal, and it was a great way to network. I feel like in a lot of places, networking is one of the most important things you can do as a youth leader, because you don't know what other people know until you meet them. And knowing of the grants and funding that you can receive is super important. And that was really cool that we could connect people that worked at the UN and teenagers in high school. And then for day 2, we did a cacti thing. So we created like a little succulent garden. So a fun thing was I actually like stole the cacti from the side of the road because there was just cacti that grow on the side of the road. So I like took a knife and just started hacking at it. And my hands really hurt after, but it was super cool. And what's cool about cacti like this is if you just plant it, if you hack off a piece and plant it, it'll just continue growing. And we had interpretive dancing. There was this person that I met who was an interpretive dancer who like did hip hop dancing in New York City. I was like, okay, come over and we'll do like an interpretive dancing session about nature. And it really sounds weird. It's like, how does interpretive dancing connect with climate change, right? But it really is, first, it's therapeutic. And second, you get to meet other people. And even if you're not directly helping the environment, it's fueling people's passion because burnout is real and you don't want to burn out fast. And I also presented to my high school back in the US about the Jordanian climate and stuff like that. So really fostering the intercultural communities and intercultural connectivity about climate change through art. And the last day, we made flower crowns. We had this local like floral shop give us the flowers that they're gonna throw away to create flower crowns. And we graffitied this. There's this community center for refugees in Jordan, and we spray painted it full of flowers and stuff. And we reflected on what Floralia meant to us. And knowing that Floralia in and of itself didn't have any impact on climate action, right? Because we didn't build solar panels, we didn't build a garden that sucks CO2 out of the atmosphere. But you know what we did do? We energized a community. We created a community in and of itself and created these conversations, because the first step of every action are the conversations that lead to action. And then we also created a huge art mural. It was like next to a refugee school, and we had, it was like 40 feet. This thing was huge. We did not plan it out properly. So it was a lot of like empty spray paint cans after. And we just spray painted over some graffiti, and we just tried to create this community and had these school children help us spray painting these flowers and spray painting these little ghosts and trying to create like these conversations, because in Jordan, right, people don't, it's not that people don't care about the environment, it's not their first priority. So having this time in which people can reflect on it is really important too. And that is basically it. And I just want to highlight, like, if you are a youth activist and at your school, you don't need permission to do stuff like this. Like, just do it. Like, anarchy is real. You don't need anybody's approval. You just need to get out and take that first step and take that lead. And that's it.
Thank you so much. That was really great. I think something to emphasize, like you said, is like there are so many different avenues to make an impact within the climate. There are so many ways to initiate innovative ways to work on climate change. And I want to emphasize what you said at the end. The idea to just do is so important. We got your pictures on your slides, guys. They're not really creepy. So yeah, next up, Amal and Peter are going to speak.
Connected to us, there's our website and also our Instagram. We'd love to get connected to other high schools or just anybody in this room, really. But before we do that, I think we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Here.
Okay, sure. So I'm Amal, that's me. I'm the president of Earth Corps at Jefferson High School, and I'm a senior in high school. This is Gabriella Angeles, who could not be here today because she is ill, but she is our vice president and she's also a senior.
And of course, I'm Tom, and I'm the secretary at Earth Corps.
And I'm Peter. I work with the outdoor recreation stuff. Sophia was not able to make it today, and Ms. Erdman is our advisor. What is Earth Corps? Earth Corps is a student-led club. We'd like to focus on reducing waste and pollution, living sustainably, and spreading awareness. Several ways we do this. We have like a peace garden to promote environmentalism, a lot of the schools that work towards sustainability. We began as the Hope Club several years ago. We didn't have a great presence. It wasn't easy to brand ourselves as an Earth group or an environmental group. And then we rebranded as the Earth Corps and decided to be more action focused. Some things we've done in the past, we recently planted a native garden.
No, it's me. We planted a native garden. Amal applied for some grant money, and you can also reach out to local Rotary organizations. That's what we did, and we got a lot of money, so that's a good way to get funding if you're a youth environmental leader. And we focused on native plants and pollinator plants, and we also focused on recycling and composting within our school. The composting is still an issue, I'm gonna be honest. Like, our janitors combine both, I'm pretty sure. We just need to find like hard evidence. But we also donate our produce to a local food shelter, which is super cool. And we won the Bush Lake Youth Conservative Award. And we had an environmental racism chat because, of course, how intersectional youth environmental activism is with other issues. It's really important to discuss those and find spaces to promote those conversations too. And we did Line 3 walkouts and climate strikes and electric buses, which our school hasn't really taken action with, but we are still fighting for it.
So things we're working on this year 2022 to 2023, we're kind of collaborating with an organization called Tree Plenish to host a tree planting event at our school, and we're hoping to collaborate and encourage other schools to also have a tree planting event. If you got a DM from us, we're trying to encourage you to also do this with us and join us in hosting a tree planting event. Something else we're working on is soft landing our Jefferson trees. So killing the grass around the trees and then planting native plants around our trees because it looks better, and native plants are great for our earth, and because when buds fall out of the tree and then they get mowed over and then they die, and that's not really cool. We also focus on having fun educational member meetings. So we'll have like educational meetings about line 3 efforts. We have Earth Day to celebrate. We even do like a eucalyptus planting day event. So we just try to get our members at our schools kind of involved and also thinking about climate justice. This year we're working on doing a school-wide thrift exchange to kind of promote thrifting and kind of moving away from fast fashion. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of teenagers our age struggle with overconsumption, like thrift hauls, shopping hauls, and so kind of this is just maybe a better way to move around fast fashion. We're also working on starting an environmental blog this year, kind of a place to maybe do poetry about environmental issues that are important to you, or to just post updates, write articles for students in our club who are very passionate about writing. We also focus on outdoor experiences, so ice skating, hiking, snowshoeing, the buckthorn bus, just to get kind of people active and also hopefully enjoyable. So on to our next slide. We didn't really know what we were supposed to present or for how long, but we wanted to try and make it as interactive as possible. So I have a little question for you guys. Feel free to share your thoughts. What are your first feelings, thoughts, or reactions to the word eco-anxiety? And I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to touch about it more. So does anybody have first thoughts, feelings, reactions? And maybe you need some time to think, but if you don't, yes.
Well, I think it's very real, and I think that like with statistics and numbers, and there's a lot of documentaries out there that just are like very scary and paint very bleak pictures. So I think it's important to focus on climate joy and hope as well.
Yes.
Yeah. So one thing that's like really bad about equal, I should word the phrase like that it gets people like they think that it's an impossible situation to get out of, so they feel like well, I get engaged in like trying to help the like environment, so that's really not good. It's good to like have you set yourself in a direction where you actually get active and things good.
Does anybody else have anything else they want to share? You too?
Yeah, I would agree with what he said. I think from my perspective, when I would think about like trying to get involved, I would get scared of trying to get involved because it would just increase my anxiety.
I feel that.
Well, this is kind of sort of related, but I follow this girl on TikTok and she does like good climate news every once in a while, and it's just so uplifting. It's all over social media.
Right.
This and that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Just to piggyback off of what you said, I also feel like uplifting news is so often in our society like not brought up enough. So I feel like just centering ourselves on more positive aspects is really important.
Okay. So my first thoughts or feelings, or what I think about first, which like scares the crap out of me, is this countdown clock that is in New York City. And I think it's meant to be helpful, but to me it really produces a lot of anxiety. So the countdown clock is kind of a countdown. We're probably not at this anymore. I think it's more around 6 years now, but it's kind of the clock, it's kind of the countdown to when climate change becomes irreversible, and scientists believe that to be 1.5 degrees Celsius, and then at that point, climate change will be irreversible, and there kind of isn't anything we can do more about it. So that's kind of what I think about when I think about eco-anxiety, and this clock is like this pressing thought in my mind. Yeah, so that's kind of my first reaction. And then I have a little follow-up for you guys. How has eco-anxiety shaped your environmental activism? I think this is kind of something that I think about when we say like eco-anxiety makes us anxious and it makes us feel hopeless. But I think sometimes, or for me, eco-anxiety has pushed me to do things about our environment. And I guess I just want to know what that looks like for you guys. Again, take your time to think about it. Yes.
I think that one way that eco-anxiety has kind of shaped my environmental activism is like the first step in when I started learning about that same statistic you're referencing about that irreversible point is that I just really wanted to learn more, and because like when you hear the year like 2030 or whatever, it's going to be irreversible, I just wanted to be like, what does that mean, and what does that mean for different communities, and like what can I do about it? So I guess just like eco-anxiety made me want to learn more.
I feel like for me, it was really easy to get into a very negative mindset. I was like, same as we were all saying, like, I started thinking about it. But I was hearing from some, I think it was a Yaman event that they talked about how it's really easy to get burnt out if your entire activism is based around like anger and fear. And so kind of trying to go from a hopeful, optimistic mindset around activism has just really helped motivate me.
In terms of how it shaped my environmental activism, it's a lot more about doing every little thing. It's like, as a school, we don't have a lot of systems of personality, so it's not, we don't have something to rail against really. There's not, in our corner, there's not a big bad wolf, essentially. And so it's a lot about like, oh, how do we plant a garden, plant a tree, plant 8 plants, how do we do little things?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree where I think the fear kind of was what pushed me to like do more research and talk to more people and just kind of figure out that like the best place to start is not like taking on the big things all at once, kind of do little things just like build up and
Yeah, little steps. Did you guys have anything to add on? Okay, so for me, with eco-anxiety, I was fearful at first. I was scared and I didn't know what to do, and like it all felt like it was crashing and burning down. But I realized that just because my eco-anxiety does not have to stop at anxiety. I can take a step forward and use that to be hopeful and to do things about eco-anxiety. And I think that's what makes us different than everyone else who reposts that clock and kind of goes on with their day. For us, we're here to learn more about environmental activism. We're all involved in different ways, such as climate strikes or, you know, like planting a tree or a garden, as you said. And in all of our little ways and in all of our different schools and in all of our lives, we battle eco-anxiety by action. And so I think that is a really, I just wanted to talk about eco-anxiety. I think it's a really creative term, and I think it all takes place in our lives. And I think we're all doing great things to combat eco-anxiety. So that's Earth Core.
Hey everybody, thanks for sticking around for our last little bit here. And I'm curious which cities people live in. How many people live in Minneapolis? Let's see. Excellent. Minneapolis is working on updating their climate action plan right now. How many people from Bloomington? Anybody from Bloomington? Anybody on the Bloomington Environmental Commission? They have you're on the Sustainability Commission? Excellent. So you could be one of our speakers for this thing too. And then anybody from Richfield? Let's see, Minnetonka, Wayzata. Let's see, what other cities do we have here besides Minneapolis and Bloomington? Any other cities? Okay. St. Cloud? Oh, St. Paul. Okay, great. Yeah, they have a really great climate committee there. Hopkins. Okay, great. Yeah, Hopkins has a really great new environmental mayor. And they're just kind of getting started. Yep. Okay.
Golden Valley.
Golden Valley, yes. Golden Valley has an excellent environmental commission, and they're doing great. Is that it? I guess. Okay. Egan, excellent. Yeah, Egan is one of our cities that is a bit sleepy that we're trying to wake up. They have an environmental committee there also. And they're kind of tiptoeing into having climate goals. So it would be great to have more support at Egan. Go ahead. Eden Prairie is now really rocking on things. They have Laura Bishop, who used to be on the Pollution Control Agency, is now on the Environmental Commission for Eden Prairie. So Jen is the sustainability coordinator, and they're doing great. Okay, any other?
Roseville and Shoreview.
Okay, Roseville and Shoreview, yeah. Roseville, Noel Bakken is really doing great work there, and they're going to try to create a climate action plan this year in Roseville. And Shoreview is also doing great, but they, basically they have a lot of great education for residents, but there's other things that cities could do, for its own things. Any other?
Well, I'm from Mound,
Okay.
or Minnetrista, but that's a smaller town.
Oh yeah, no problem. So yeah, Mound is also important because it's a more swing legislative district, and so we'd love to get a team going out there. We have a good team going in Wayzata now as well. So basically the idea is that we can't get things done as much on the federal level. It was kind of miraculous to get Joe Manchin to kind of team up on the tax credit thing. And then we also want to get things done on the state level, but then we can't always get it done on the state level. So why not do it on your city level? So the main resistance that cities have is we don't have enough staff to get all this stuff done. So one of the things we're trying to do is have a bunch of cities team up with other cities in their county so they can generate more momentum to get these things done. So if any of you took this flyer, we're going to be having about 40 cities joining us on October 6th. So you'd be able to join us in the afternoon on Zoom from noon to 4, or if you're in school that afternoon, you could attend from 5:30 to 7:30 in the evening. And so basically the way the workshop will happen is we're going to have an overview of the climate progress that cities are making and how much of a gap we have to meet our climate goals for 2030 and 2050. The cities will share exciting updates about what they're up to, and then you'll be able to break into small groups on different topics that you're interested in. Could you share a bit about what it's like to be on the Bloomington Environmental Commission, and how is it going for you?
I was appointed in I would say mid-June, earlier this year. My term technically starts in September 1st, but the first meeting's going to actually happen for me in next Tuesday. So I haven't actually been into a technical meeting yet, but about the commission. The commission basically advises the city and city council members on situations on land use, other sustainability things like water use, stuff like that. So yeah, and it has 11 members. One member placement is reserved for a council member, and then there are 2 that are youth positions, which the age can range from 16 to I think 23 or 24, something like that. So yeah.
And then the Bloomington Environmental Commission also has the students do a project in their school.
Yeah.
So do you have any idea what project you want to do at your school?
Well, early, I haven't been involved much in recent years about that. Yeah. But earlier your commission or the city supported you guys with the garden, right?
Yes, we had city support
mainly for publicity, I would say.
Okay.
With our Unity Garden that we planted, which was a native plant garden that cost over $1,000. Very pricey, but we did the sustainability group kind of helped us with reaching out for grants, having other people learn about our garden, coming to volunteer with our garden. So that's kind of how the Sustainability Commission helped.
Okay, great. If you can turn over the flyer to see this list of 25 actions. I don't know if you guys have the flyer there. So let's just kind of try to figure out if we want to get to be cutting carbon in half by 2030, what kind of stuff do we have to do with our houses and commercial buildings? What would be things that should happen to our buildings to cut down on carbon from buildings?
A good start is to make them more efficient.
Yeah.
Better installation and stuff like that.
Yeah, so one thing is to get the weatherization put in there, air sealing, and then now they're looking at putting in air source heat pumps. So instead of using your furnace with gas, you can have electricity heating and cooling your house. When they're building a new building, how should we be, any idea of what new buildings should be built like nowadays to be meeting our climate goals? Any ideas of things you would like to see with new buildings?
Solar panels.
Yeah, to be solar ready, either to have conduit up to the roof or to put solar on there. Another thing is to have really solid insulation, so the buildings can be basically net zero. So basically we have the top 25 actions that cities can do, and at the conference we'll be helping cities that have already done the things. So like, for example, Bloomington has passed a truth and sale of housing rule, so that before you sell your house, it has to have an energy inspection, so that the person buying the house can say, dang, this house is really leaky, we need to get it, weatherized. Some of the cities have also passed, like if you're gonna put in a new parking lot, you have to put in conduit for like the EV charging and all that. So, so it's an exciting time to help move those things forward. I'm curious, in Roseville, have you been hearing at all anything from Roseville or Shoreview about anything they're doing at all? Or have you, I know the Roseville city, the Roseville schools, I guess they just redid their high school a bit. And one of the things is with the Rosedale shopping mall, they're gonna be trying to have more housing built right there by the shopping mall. So how to make it so that pedestrians can get to Rosedale without feeling freaked out by all the cars. So they're trying to get a bike bridge kind of across 36 there to try to do that. So they're kind of redoing a lot of the malls that way. So do people have any other questions about like what's happening in Minneapolis or Bloomington Eden Prairie? Or like, what are your questions about how you would make a difference with your city? Go ahead.
Well, this isn't exactly a question about what you were just saying, but what city in this kind of greater Twin Cities area would you say has like the best climate action plan?
So, well, Minneapolis, it's like a climate action plan doesn't do any good without money to actually pay for it. So Minneapolis probably has the best funding mechanism right now, which is still only funding about 10% of what they should be doing. So Minneapolis is right now spending about $3 million a year through a little 50-cent increase on when you pay your electricity and natural gas bill, there's a little franchise fee. So like every household pays 50 cents a month, and that raises like $3 million a year. So in Minneapolis, if you go onto the MN350 website, there's a whole Minneapolis climate equity plan. So they're trying to increase these fees to have like $40 million a year to invest in weatherization. Otherwise, it would take so long to weatherize all the houses because you're not really spending enough money. So for everybody from Minneapolis here, if you wanted to meet people from your Minneapolis Green New Deal Ward team, they're going to have a picnic on Monday, September 19th, I think. But it's on the MN350 website. But if you signed up and you're in Minneapolis, I will connect you because we have teams in all 13 wards that are working with their city council members on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay, all right. Yep.
So, like earlier, Holly actually talked about how, like, her school worked with MN 350 on like getting a trip, like electronic transportation, like school buses and things.
Yep.
Like that. So, are there any other initiatives that you know of that, like us as students, could reach out to start making change in our schools?
Right. So, part of the issue is if you connect with your school district, there's federal money for electrification of buses, and then your school district would have to work with your bus companies to see if they can get an application to apply for the federal money. There's also some state money going for that. And then the other thing is, you guys have probably heard about the federal infrastructure bill. And so they're gonna have like 25% more money coming down to the state for transportation. So one of the things you guys could do would be to tie in with the Sierra Club's transportation committee so that we're changing the way the transportation dollars are spent. So not just putting it all into roads and all that, you could put more into electric vehicle charging, or like electrification of transportation. The other issue is a lot of the buses like are diesel, and they go in areas like North Minneapolis that have a lot of air pollution. So trying to have more quickly changing over the buses to be electrified would be better for reducing asthma rates like in North Minneapolis. So that's all the things that your cities can work on, both in terms of getting EV charging spots put in, trying to help. You could also organize with your city like an EV, kind of like try out an EV kind of a fair. So you could have a place in your city where people could come and check out electric vehicles and, you know, test drive them. And there's a bunch of tax credits so people can, you know, have the electric vehicles cheaper and all that. Go ahead. Yep.
What do you think Bloomington could use specifically? Like what as students
Right. So the good news for Bloomington is they don't have to be on the Sustainability Commission to get involved with. They have 5 work teams for the Environmental Commission. So there's one team working on energy and buildings, another on transportation, another on like open space and green space, one on recycling and one on water quality. So you could just join one of the work groups from the Bloomington Sustainability Commission. So for example, one of the things that you could do if you join the buildings and energy team is Bloomington has a lot of older buildings built in like the 1950s and 60s that are not very well insulated. So you could try to work on how could Bloomington generate new funding as well as educate. Like there's a lot of rental properties in Bloomington, and those rental owners could use these tax credits to improve the buildings, and or how to have, you know, more outreach for the home energy squad. So there's a ton of things working with all the apartment buildings in Bloomington, all the older houses. So that would be a big one. Another thing would be exciting is to like do an electric vehicle fair, so they do it down at Oak Grove Presbyterian.
Yeah.
And so like John Crampton, those guys are totally into it. So like trying to get more people to show up for their electric vehicle, like, you know, fairs and things. Go ahead.
That's next month.
Oh, they're gonna do it next month? Okay, great, yeah. And then the other big thing with Bloomington is because you have the river there and so much huge amounts of open space, there's a lot of need of working on ripping out buckthorn, how to put in better native plants. So there's a lot of things about how to create better ecosystems in Bloomington. One of the interesting things that people don't realize about Bloomington is there used to be a giant lacrosse field that would go from the Minnesota River all the way up to Lake Nokomis, where tribes from 5 different states would come and have these gigantic lacrosse like battles or whatever. And but then the soldiers at Fort Snelling would get freaked out because like there was way more warriors there, you know, coming to play lacrosse, so they banned it because they thought they would get outnumbered with Fort Snelling. But there's a lot of, you know, in older Dakota history, a lot of the names, Shakpay was a famous chief. You know, there's a lot of, you can begin to also learn about the more indigenous history of your city and how that can tie into the future. Go ahead. Yep.
What's going on with transit-oriented development around Minneapolis right now?
Yeah, so the transit-oriented development is a very exciting opportunity, but it also has a big danger because of the, basically we're gonna have new light rail lines going out to, you know, out to Eden Prairie, up to Brooklyn Park. There's the BRT going from Rosedale over to the, you know, the Ford site. So like you can see like along Snelling Avenue, all these new like 3-story apartment buildings going up and a lot of new development in downtown Minneapolis. So the first issue with transit-oriented development is we don't want them to build cheap buildings, because if you build cheap buildings, you're gonna not be able to achieve your 2050 climate goals. So that's one of the things on this list that you want to do is have your city pass action number, let's see, it's action number 3, which is passing a sustainable building policy. And so Minneapolis has passed a sustainable building policy. So if the city's putting money into a project, the developer has to make it like a net zero building. So that would be something that other cities like Roseville could do. Bloomington has now passed a sustainable building policy as well. St. Louis Park has passed it. The other challenge with these transit-oriented development zones is trying to have some affordable units, because like trying to have lower income people live there or more affordable commercial space. So that's one of the problems of a lot of this redevelopment is a lot of the affordable like units are gonna get, like they'll get maybe bought up by an out-of-town developer. So that's what happened in Richfield, where they had a huge apartment building off of Highway 62 that got bought up by a developer from out of town. He raised all the rents, and then they lost a number of the families in Richfield that had kids in the school district. So that would be something that you could also tie in with the Minneapolis Environmental Commission meets once a month. And if you wanted to talk to the chairperson of the committee, is Anna Johnson from Fresh Energy. So that would be one of the things that we could work on. The Minneapolis Climate Action Plan is being updated right now. So we could try to have some strategies in the Climate Action Plan that try to help maintain affordability of units in these new, transit-oriented developments. The other thing in transit-oriented developments is making it so you don't necessarily have to have a car, because I live near Hiawatha Lake and we have a bunch of new buildings going up. And so if not everybody has a car, then you'll have less congestion, but then you have to have, better crosswalks and everything, so bikes and pedestrians are not freaked out. But any other thoughts, are you noticing any transit-oriented developments happening?
I know around in St. Louis Park by Highway 100 and Woodell Avenue, there's
Right.
a station, and that's where some kind of development's going on.
Yeah, for St. Louis Park, actually, they have an RFP to try to have developers do net zero developments on their TOD sites, which is great. And that's going to also happen in at the Pentagon place up in, they're going to do a lot of that in Rosedale, at the Ford site in St. Paul. They're doing a lot of higher density development. And then the Hillcrest development over there. Sorry, I'm talking too much here. What other questions do we have? Go ahead, yeah.
Cities like Egan that we've started to open up, what is the best way that students can do that? I know we talked about big walkouts. How do we get their attention?
So the easiest thing to do is just get 3 students and just show up at a city council meeting. They always have an open time before the city council meeting. So you just send a note to the city clerk saying that we're going to be signing up for the open time before the city council meeting. It also would be extremely good in Maple Grove to do that, because the Maple Grove has never heard anybody come to the city council to talk about climate solutions in Maple Grove. So that's an easy thing to do, is just go to your city council meeting and saying, hey, we're students from the city, we really care about the future of the climate. Now, Egan, they've already become a Green Step city, so now what Egan needs to do is set a climate goal of reducing carbon by, basically the state of Minnesota, it's 50% by 2030 and 80% by 2050, but the United Nations now wants to be carbon neutral by 2050. So the other thing is you could also connect with your city's environmental commission to see what they're up to next. And then the other thing is you could also send flyers around to you wanted to send a flyer like this, you could go on my website and get this flyer and send it to your city manager for Egan and say, hey, let's get 6 staff members for Egan to go to this event so they can go be at all the different workshops. And then I think the final thing for Egan is that Egan is part of a kind of a recycling coalition with Burnsville, Appa Valley, Lakeville, and if they all, it's called Dakota Valley Recycling. But if Egan could, basically you could talk to your environmental commission at Egan about joining the Partners in Energy program, which is a free program to get an energy action plan for your city. And you do that with with Excel and Center for Energy Environment. but ideally we would like to have Egan and Burnsville, you know, all these bigger cities, Lakeville, in Dakota County doing it all at the same time. So then you kind of generate this kind of a block of all the big cities to do it together. So, but feel free to give me a call and I could give you a bit more coaching. But main thing is just you know, going to one of the city council meetings and then encouraging your city staff and city manager to send a bunch of staff to this event. So we can we have a Dakota County cluster of cities. So another thing you can do in Egan is go and visit the School for Environmental Studies, because the School for Environmental Studies has students from almost all the different high schools. And what we'd like to do is having a strong green team in every single high school in Dakota County. That would be a feeder system, so there's more students going to the School for Environmental Studies, so that school can stay strong, you know, and not go belly up. And then that would be a way of generating grassroots support from all the cities across, you know, Dakota County. So I think we're probably good to go here. Thanks again, everybody. I'll send you a note about our event, and then you can send it out to your friends. Encourage your city council member to join us at our event on October 6th. And then in the future, we'd like to try to dovetail the West Metro students with our Hennepin County cluster of cities, so we can really work with our county commissioners to move things forward. So, any last question before I?
I guess one question. So, yeah. Like, I guess this is more of like a question for like other people. It's like I'm
oh yeah.
the only one in a commission, but like
right.
A lot of commissions they like have it so like you have to be an adult. How do you think you can youth are able to like get themselves so like city councils will have it so that there'll be like youth positions?
Correct. So like Richfield would like to have students on their environmental commission, but they can't find any. So part of it is if you just go on your city's website to see if they have an environmental commission, then you can see on the website if they have any student positions on the commission. A lot of times they have a vacant position, like in West St. Paul, they have no student on the commission right now. So if you see on the website that there's no student on the commission, you could just say, hey, I want to volunteer. But if your city currently does not have youth representatives, you can just call up the staff person who's the liaison for your environmental commission saying, hey, we'd like to work with you on getting like the rule change to be able to have youth on our commission. Otherwise, you can also just show up at your environmental commission meeting, even if you're actually not on the commission, because it's an open meeting. So that we only have one student rep on the Minneapolis Environmental Commission, but anybody can attend the Minneapolis Environmental Commission meetings, and so it's, it's a great opportunity. Yeah. All right, well, anyway, it's also a great area to go into because there's a lot of people retiring in the field of work for cities and counties. So anyway, it's, especially if you get an internship with Met Councils, it's called Urban Scholars, where they pay you whatever, $25 an hour to do things, whatever. So it's a good career field to go into. Yeah.
Well,
all right, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Sean, for speaking. This was a lot of really, really helpful information. And if anyone wants to continue to be in touch with Sean, we can give you his email address too.
And right on the top of the flyer too, my phone number. Yeah.